Happening today in the Middle East, U.S. and Iranian officials will return to the negotiating table in Qatar after a tense weekend threatened to put their peace deal at risk. Iran's president now saying his country will honor the agreement if the U.S. does the same. Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst joins us live in Tel Aviv with the details. Trey.
Yeah, hey, Todd, good morning. High-level talks will take place today in Doha, Qatar, aimed at advancing the Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Iran. U.S. Special Envoys Kushner and Witkoff will be in attendance and are expected to meet directly with the Qatari Prime Minister, according to a diplomat familiar with the talks. Technical talks about the MOU are then scheduled to take place on Wednesday.
The meeting in Doha is going to be perhaps important, perhaps not. We're going to find out. But we're winning militarily. It's almost won militarily, I would say. And it's really very simple. It's the denuclearization of Iran. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that, in all fairness.
Iranian officials have indicated that no direct talks will take place between the United States and Iran while in Doha, but did confirm that a delegation will be traveling to Qatar. The 60-day window is meant to iron out the details of Iran's nuclear program and keep the Strait of Hormuz open. President Trump has indicated he reserves both military and diplomatic options after that time period. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian posted to X saying mutual understanding is a two-way street. If the American side adheres to the agreement, we will also fulfill our commitments. Our approach to unreasonable saber-rattling and baseless threats is to rely on rationality and human dignity in decision-making and to defend decisively and fearlessly when it comes time to act. Now, Iran's president did not mention Iranian attacks on the Strait of Hormuz that took place late last week and over the weekend. We're also tracking developments here in Israel, where Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz spoke to reporters yesterday. He indicated the IDF has been instructed to prepare an independent Israeli operation against Iran and remains on alert. Katz said that Israel would strike Iran with force if more missiles are launched by Iran. The bottom line here, the ceasefire is holding, but there are clearly preparations underway in case these diplomatic conversations fail. Carly?
Yeah, Trey, yesterday the president posted on True Social, Iran has requested a meeting. It will take place tomorrow in Doha, but as you said, Iran is denying that direct talks will take place. What do you make of that difference in messaging or what the reality of the situation could actually be later today? It's noon in Doha right now.
Oftentimes, the Iranians will say one thing for their domestic audience, but at the negotiating table say something completely different. And we've seen that throughout these talks that took place, not just in Qatar, but also in Islamabad and ultimately in Switzerland. And so oftentimes the Iranians are playing to their base, and behind the scenes they are making concessions. And that's why we have to be patient here and wait for the facts that come out of these conversations in Doha, because even if there aren't direct talks taking place, these conversations are often mediated by the Qataris or the Pakistanis, and it gives credence to the ability of this to move forward. And that is ultimately what the United States is trying to do. They are using this window to iron out the details of Iran's nuclear program to ensure that the Iranians never have a nuclear weapon, and ultimately the Strait of Hormuz remains open. Carly?
All right, Trey Yingst live for us in Tel Aviv. Trey, thank you. Let's bring in senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and Council on Foreign Relations member, Dr. Qanta Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, thank you for joining us. So what do you think about the latest? And Trey saying that there could be a potential for direct talks to take place. You never know, but there is certainly a potential for moving the ball forward here.
Look, I think dialogue is always good. It's not surprising that there may not be face-to-face interactions between the U.S. and the Iranian delegation at this point. That's the role of Qatar. But much more interesting is the quiet and very serious diplomacy that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been leading in Lebanon. Also, we've had the commander of CENTCOM in Lebanon recently, and there's a very strong consensus with the GCC nations, all of the Gulf cooperation states, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, the UAE, all of them consolidating in a position that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, Iran cannot be left with proxies such as Hezbollah or with missiles, and the straits go free without penalty. And I think that's where the pressure is building on Iran, which is essentially occupying Lebanon with its asset of Hezbollah. That's where the pressure is building.
Yeah, Lebanon or Hezbollah and Iran synonymous with one another, and there is certainly a lot going on when it comes to Israel. Yesterday, the president said when it comes to these efforts in Qatar this week could be perhaps important, perhaps not. We are going to find out. What do you make of the president's phrasing there?
I think the president is a masterful communicator, and there's value in strategic ambiguity. We, the public, don't need to know every detail. And most of all, Iran is on the back foot. It is badly injured. It is financially in collapse. It's under enormous pressure. It's been dragged to the negotiating table because of the incredible array of military assets the United States has put in the region. And it is on extremely thin ice. Israel is ramping up the pressure because Israel cannot function with any kind of threat from Hezbollah. And that is a dangerous point. If that is not understood, we will have conflict even without the U.S. launching this. Israel is announcing that. And so Iran is in the weaker position. I do have concerns that Qatar is so injected into these proceedings. We remember Qatar was the broker that has actually ensured the Taliban is now in power in Afghanistan. And we don't want to see the Iranian people subjugated to an Iranian regime for another 40 years. So that's my worry. And that may be Qatar's intention.
Okay, so we are still very far apart, the United States and Iran, on all of the key issues. Ultimately, when this 60-day window closes, what happens?
I think conflict is coming again, because I think the Iranian regime, not the Iranian people, the Iranian regime is not interested in relinquishing its expansionist, bellicose sabotage of the region that has cost countries like Yemen, Syria, Iraq. Iraq is now taking extremely strong approach to these armed groups, these corrupt groups on Iraqi soil that operate at the behest of Iran. The region is moving to isolate Iran very effectively. And the Gulf states, the oil-producing states, are very nervous about potential retaliation from Iran, which repeatedly targets their oil infrastructure, but more dangerously, the desalination centers along the coast, which could really deny supplies of water to the region within days.
And when it comes to isolating Iran, the president wants to further that with the Abraham Accords, so we will be watching out for that as well and seeing what happens there. Dr. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us, and in studio, no less. It's great to see you.
Pleasure, Carly.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.